Get your ears wrapped around the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. All the scoop you need to know from college basketball to the NBA and even March Madness. News of your rising stars. Topics on and off the hardwood. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast.
Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Pauline, and I am pretty excited about this episode because there's a bunch of little things that I wanted to talk about, some things that I wanted to wrap up from some previous episodes, give you guys some updates on some things that we've been discussing these last few weeks, as well as some things that are new in the world of basketball and current right now. So there are a few things that I did want to touch on, as well as some things that may be a little bit different than what we talk about on the basketball show, but it has to do with basketball, so we're going to discuss it. Now, we have been discussing the free agency for a while now, ever since free agency madness happened a couple months ago, and there are still some players that are not quite sure now what's going to happen. Now, the Cavaliers are the reigning champions. We know LeBron and the Cavs have done so far so good as far as the preseason is concerned right now, going through training camp. Everybody seems pretty happy. They are looking forward to the season. Now, the Cavs have... Okay, so we've been talking about the Cavaliers in not last episode. I think it was about 2, perhaps even 3 episodes ago. We were discussing whether or not certain people would be receiving championship rings. Now, the Cavaliers, they kind of strike me as a team that cares about family. They care about each other. I don't know. They just strike me as a team that genuinely actually gets along and that they like being around each other and that the people like to play together, that the staff, I don't know. That's just me. That's just from the things that I have seen. It seems that everyone is pretty happy there, and people that we didn't think that were going to come back decided to stay. And just whatever, and I know it's always easier to be happy in paradise when things are a paradise, and when you win a championship and it looks like you guys are going to have a really good run in the upcoming season, it's really hard to be mad. Now, in regards to the championship rings, now a couple episodes ago we were discussing how they have decided, the majority owner Gilbert did decide that he was going to give championship rings to basically everybody who had some type of contribution to the team, the ticket takers, the concession stand workers, the security. So I personally thought that was really, really cool. But then we are also discussing on whether or not David Blatt would get a championship ring. Now, he is already over in Turkey right now coaching. He is doing well over there right now. But as we know, he was part of that first half of the season with the Cavaliers before getting replaced by Coach Lue. So it has been confirmed by both here in the States as well as international papers that Coach Blatt has accepted a championship ring from the Cavaliers. Now, their general manager, David Griffin, was the one, I guess, to present and propose this, the ring to him. And according to Coach Blatt, he did say that it was done in a very respectful manner and that they made it a point to make him feel and to let it be known that he did contribute to the success of the team and getting them to the championship by being that first half, like the first run of the season. And I think that's just kind of cool. I was really hoping, I don't know about Verjao. I don't know, because now you're playing for a team that lost the championship. I don't know how easy it is for that, how smooth that would run over. I don't know if he were to accept a ring, but I was hoping that they would give Coach Blatt a ring and that he would accept it, because like I said, and I agree with the whole fact that he was part of the success in the first half of this season. And so, I mean, I'm glad that he accepted it. It's kind of like one of those olive branch things. Like it's a nice way not to really burn the bridge or anything, but to just show. And even if there's never going to be really a relationship there, it's just nice to know that that bridge isn't burned and that everything can just be closed. And that's fine to close a certain chapter of your life, but just close on a nice way. I just think that was really good. And so the Cavaliers, again, like I'm saying, I just think that they're a nice group of people. I just feel like what they do over there and trying to make that like a community and that family atmosphere. Again, this is another example of that and another reason why I think that they are a class act when it comes to certain things like that. But there's probably someone who, even no matter if you I love the phrase that you could be the most beautiful peach in the world and the most perfect peach, but there's just someone out there who doesn't like peaches and prefers apples. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not a great peach, and it doesn't mean that you're not a beautiful, perfect peach. It just means that I like apples. And so what I mean by that is that there's always going to be a person that's not happy. And right now with the Cavaliers, that man is J.R. Smith. Now, he's still, basically he's still a free agent. It's not technically anywhere right now. And according to J.R. Smith and a tweet that he posted on Wednesday, he potentially could be exploring some different options. Now, one of these options being the Cleveland Browns. And I know it kind of sounds funny, but he did post a picture of his head, like his body. It was like a Photoshop picture of his body, tats and all, in a football uniform, in a Browns uniform. And so he tweeted this himself. And he seemed kind of serious-ish about it. Like, I think if the Browns reach out to him, we don't know. Maybe he'll be another crossover player. We've seen it before. I don't know how well he would do. I've never really seen him play football, so I can't make any remarks on that. I guess at this point he's just trying to get a job someplace, somewhere, doing something. I don't know. It's kind of sad, but one could say that he kind of did this to himself. So we will see if he is going to be with the Cleveland Browns. What he wants to be in Cleveland, I see, but I don't know. Now, LeBron was interviewed and they were asking him during training camp about this entire situation. Now, this is before this picture was tweeted, and he was saying that, JR has been doing what he can do to get back on the, to get an agreement with the organization and to stick with the team. But so far, nothing has panned out, as far as nothing has come of these agreements and things like that. So we will see. I don't know if you guys think that JR can make it in the NFL. Excuse me. I know that some people, there was always talks about LeBron playing football and things like that. And we have football players crossing over to baseball, even most recently now with Tebow. So I don't know. I really don't know how that would work out if a ball, like a hoop star, crosses over to the NFL. It's just a different aggression. I don't know. But then again, like I said, maybe he played football in high school, and, there are some athletes out there that play multiple sports through high school, and then they go to college for whatever sport offers them more money. So maybe he's just one of those guys. I don't know. I try to justify this. I don't know if JR was just being kind of funny, or if he's just fed up. But he did even mention somebody needs to Photoshop him on a cowboy's body. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen to him. This may be the end of J.R. Smith with the Cavaliers, but maybe not the end of him in Cleveland. So we will see what happens with him. I am going to take it to a quick break, and when we come back, I want to discuss how some NBA players are protesting civil unrest, as well as an Army veteran who is trying to pursue his basketball in the NCAA with the Oakland Golden Eagles. So keep it locked here. You are listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. We will be right back. This is your host, Pauline, and I want to talk to you today about compression gear. Compression gear is popular with professional and amateur athletes everywhere to prevent injuries and for helping heal injuries. Sleeves has the coolest collection of compression gear around. Sleeves carries sizes for women and men as well as kids. Get compression sleeves in over 200 designs to match your teammates and uniforms. Check out the huge collection of styles and sizes or order something custom for your team at Sleeves. Get 20% off plus free shipping on purchases of $50 or more when you use the code Basketball Podcast. Visit Sleeves, that's spelled SLEEFS.com today. Again, that's SLEEFS.com. Welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. And so we had mentioned in a previous episode that the NBA, WNBA, as well as the Players Association and the D-League, just everybody involved, especially with the NBA season starting up, and it was right in the middle of training camp, that they were concerned about addressing the way and just addressing athletes using their platform to stand up for and speak out for or against the civil unrest that has been happening throughout the United States in most recent months, especially this summer. Now, I have said before that I have always liked how the NBA, the commissioner, as well as the Players Association, has always been open and very forward again on how they handle and address certain issues and what they allow and do not allow. And I had mentioned before in that episode that it is against the rules to not stand for the national anthem before games in the leagues as far as basketball is concerned. So that would have just been an automatic fine or whatever if a player chose to sit. Now, we were interested. I was interested. I don't know how you guys were, but I was quite interested to see the reaction of the players. Now, we know again that there's been players both at all the levels, whether that's high school, college, or professional, when it comes to football this past season, who have taken certain measures to show that they're unhappy with things that are happening throughout the world, and especially here in the United States, whether that's Kaepernick taking a knee, there's been players not putting their, just different things and different reactions that players have had to shed awareness in things that concern them and that they believe is important. And so basketball players are they're no exception to that. We've had LeBron, Chris Paul, and Carmelo Anthony as some big guys, especially on the ESPYs, had brought up their concerns when it comes to certain matters of the world and in their communities. These are things that are happening right here at home and that affect them and make them feel some type of way personally. And so I was interested to see how players would, or if they even would, protest or stand up, speak up, sit down. I was interested to see what was going to happen. Now, people have been very upset with players not and these are not just football players that are doing this. There are other players throughout other sports, soccer included, tennis players, all types of athletes that are making gestures or just changing how they react when it comes to the national anthem, besides the standard of standing up and removing your hat and placing your hand over your heart during the national anthem or standing at attention. Not everybody puts their hand over their heart. I understand that some people just have their hands down at their sides behind their back, but still showing respect and attention to our nation's flag during the national anthem. And everybody kind of, it's standard and it's it's society expects you to stand up for that. And some people sing along. I sing along. It's a good song. I enjoy the national anthem. I really do. I think our national anthem is great. But people are so let me just get into what the NBA has done. So now some ball players have decided, including teams such as the Kings, Lakers, Rockets, and the Knicks, have decided to, instead of they're not really protesting, but what they're trying to show and promote is unity, and trying to show that as a unit, how they feel about certain things without disrespecting anyone. And so what they have decided to do during the national anthem, that because one, it is required, it is a rule that they stand, but they link arms. And I think that it shows a good stance. It shows respect for the fact that we live in the United States and that we should be thankful for the freedoms that we do have, as well as still not covering and dusting under the rug things that are happening today around the United States that they may not agree with. The Celtics actually put out a video calling for unity and to stand together, and focusing on the fact that just calling for more humanitarianism throughout with their fan base, and focusing on the fact that we are all humans. And I think it's a pretty nice thing that the NBA is doing. They're trying to make this way, giving the players a platform to stand up for and speak out when it comes to certain things throughout the United States and throughout our society without being disrespectful. And I think it's a very good medium. And I believe that because the league as well as the Players Association has decided to address this situation before it became like a problem, I think that's why they're having such a good reaction to this. But of course, if you feel differently, if you think that what they are doing is still disrespectful, or if you have just a different opinion, I would love to hear on Twitter at GSMC_basketball, because I do want to know how fans are feeling and how players are feeling. Is this something that's going to carry over? I don't know. Are we going to see this in the college world of basketball? Are players going to link arms? Are they going to kneel? I don't know if it's going to have the same impact on college ball players and high school ball players the way that this has had an impact through football and the different levels in football. So I'm wondering what's going to happen next, how long this is going to continue. Is this just going to be a new norm for us? Does it still enrage people that they're just linking arms? And because technically you don't really have to have your hand on your heart. You're supposed to have your hand over your heart for the Pledge of Allegiance, but it is nice and respectful to do so during the national anthem as well. So I don't know if this is a good happy medium and this is a good compromise. I think that it is working. I think that it's safe, and I think that the players doing so, they still feel like they have a voice, and it's just nice to see that they're promoting unity amongst players, fans, and just unity as Americans. I think that is really nice too. So that's kind of all I'm going to say on that before it gets kind of too deep and touchy, because I know that everybody has their own opinions when it comes to that. As you rightfully, we live in America, and that's the great thing about America, is that no matter what it is that you believe, you have the right to believe that. And so I am going to cut it to a short break, and when we come back, I want to discuss an Army veteran who I think in this particular case is getting wronged. And so I want to discuss him in perhaps he can be someone who makes an exception to the rules. So when we come back, I want to discuss Army veteran Isaiah Brock. So keep it locked here. You are listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. We will be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast, and we are getting ready to wrap up this episode. But before we do, I wanted to talk a little bit about college hoops. Now, we all know when it comes to college basketball, you are supposed to be a student athlete. You're supposed to be the student first, and that's why it's first in the name, and then an athlete second. But as we all know, it doesn't matter what level you're on. It doesn't really matter how good your team is. Of course, there's more perks that come with being a student athlete when your team is really good and is doing well and is consistent, and even more so when you're like the star player or whatever, or you make the winning basket, you block a shot that in overtime that causes your team to win. There's all these things that factor into it. And I remember I had a friend who she played on a women's college basketball team now. And everybody says that women's basketball, whatever, that's fine. But then she played for a team in Texas. And I remember she shared with me that they had a really big game over the weekend and they won, and they did very, very well against like a rival school. I believe it was. This was a couple of years ago. And she actually received an email from her teacher telling her, like, it was sent out to the team, and she was one of the players that was one of the star players on the team, but the teacher had sent this out to all the players that were in his class, asking them not to come to class that following class time. I believe like Monday or Tuesday, whatever, the next class, because of the win that weekend. And because they knew that because the students were going to be so focused on the athletes and so focused on discussing the previous game, and everybody was hyped up because they had won and what have you, that it would be too much of a distraction for the other students. And so these athletes were told not to come to class, which can be problematic for multiple reasons. And of course, they're not going to get in trouble for not coming to class, even if the teacher takes attendance, because they're told not to come to class. And then you have athletes who are like, oh, cool, I don't have to go to class as long as I do really well in the game and things like that, because they're too much of a distraction, which I think is wild. I've seen it on a smaller scale when I was in college, because my school wasn't really that big on athletics. They're getting there. At that time, it's not considered a sports school, but even at a non-sports school, some of my athlete friends were given certain larger parameters to make errors. We'll just keep it that way. But so like I said, so the student athlete part does come first. They're supposed to be students, and to be eligible to play in college, you have to do well in high school, and you have to pass the SAT, ACT. You still have to get accepted into your school of choice. Now, this is particularly problematic, and it's becoming a problem right now, and there's been some discussion in regards to Army veteran Isaiah Brock. Now, Mr. Isaiah Brock served overseas. He is an Army veteran, and he has served our country, and because of him, I get to live the lifestyle that I live because of men and women who protect us, such as himself. And he is now 22 years old. He was scouted, in a way, kind of scouted, and he wants to continue his college education. He is going to be attending Oakland, so and he wants to play basketball. He received a scholarship to play basketball. He was offered a scholarship there, and he wants to continue, and he wants to play. He, mind you, is 6'8". So, it's one of those things where he could really contribute to the team. And this is a second phase of his life. And he's still young. Like I said, he's only 22. But the problem is he has been deemed ineligible by the NCAA due to his grades in high school. So in high school, he had a 2.0 GPA. It's safe to say, according to that GPA, he probably didn't apply himself as much as he could, or perhaps high school was just a little bit difficult for him and he had other distractions that prohibited him from getting stellar grades. That's fine. But now it's almost been so he's been in the Army and he's back. He clearly has changed. He's a different man now than that little boy in high school who graduated with a 2.0 GPA, but he's ineligible because of that. And I'm interested to see what people think about that, because there's people arguing both sides. There's people saying that, and because he has done well on his ACT scores and things like that, and he's ready to actually apply himself, and due to his service, he is, of course, more disciplined. He cares more about school. He is more engaged. He wants this opportunity to go to school and play basketball, and he wants to apply himself. He wants to be, of course, the best that he can be, even though he's done so much already for us. But they're saying that he can't play. And they're wanting the NCAA to take in consideration and to take in account the fact that he has served as a serviceman, and that he is, yes, he was ineligible, because now they're looking at something. It's because, people always say that sometimes your past will catch up with you. But in this particular case, I think they should make an exception, because that is almost half a decade ago. And he's served his country. He's back. He wants to further his education. He wants to play ball. He wants to and he's still young. It's not like this guy is like 37 years old and wants to come play on a college basketball team. He's 22. He's 6'8". So of course the team wants him, because that's going to add some height to their roster and things like that. And he impressed some coaches clearly with his basketball skills. So he's got it, and I think that they should make an exception this one time. Now, and I understand that when you make an exception once, then others are going to expect exceptions. So perhaps this is because, even at the high school level, teachers will inflate or just tweak grades and things like that to make stellar athletes eligible. They'll give them easier tests sometimes. Technically, they're not supposed to, but we know it happens. They'll make a curve or whatever so that athletes are still eligible, and that happens at the high school level. It happens at the college level. It just always happens. So I don't know. I think that they should make an exception in Brock's case, because just because he is a veteran. They should. They really should. I think that they should take this into consideration. They should take it into account. They should make him, and then because he did well on his ACTs and he's been taking classes over the summer, he's proactively showing that he is serious and things like that. And some of us take a little bit longer to get back on track. In high school isn't easy for everyone. And just because you do well in high school doesn't mean you're going to do well in college. You can fall off in college. You can get lazy in college, or college can just be too overwhelming for you. And he is definitely more experienced. He's more mature than he was. I've already said that he's more experienced, more mature than the young man that he was when he was in high school. So I think that they really should make an exception. And I think that he should be the precedent for other veterans and servicemen, because and servicemen and women who want to come back and play sports no matter what their high school grades were, especially if they're showing that they're making a change and that they are here to be student athletes and to get that education as well. I really do. I just feel that that's the kind of exceptions we need to make, not because they're just a stellar athlete and that you're going to bring in more revenue for a team, but because of the service that they have and the duties that they have done and performed to serve us and to protect us. That's the least that I think the NCAA can do, is to say thank you to him and let the guy play ball. Just let him ball. So that's my piece on that. I don't know if you feel differently. You can, of course, like I said, tweet me at GSMC_basketball, as well as on Facebook. Let me know what you guys think, because I think in this particular case, they really do need to make an exception. And I really hope that they take back his eligibility and, like I said, let him play. So you have been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. That's going to do it for this episode. You can listen to this episode again, as well as any others, on our network website. That's gsmcpodcast.com, as well as on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. I'm your host, Pauline. I will talk to you guys next time.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.